Welcome everyone to this side episode of Psycholing Cafe. Once again, we're your hosts, Matthew.
And Laura, and we are, well, I am going to be interviewing our co-host today about his
Oh no.
experiences at the Canadian Linguistics Association conference that was recently
Mhm.
held at the Congress of the Social Sciences and Humanities at York University, which is in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So,
Mhm.
Matthew, was this your first time at this conference?
Yes, this was my first time, at least in person, because COVID was a thing that we don't want to speak about anymore. Um, but I did get to go on while it was online. But this was my first time actually seeing it in person, which was really nice, to be honest.
So, if you were to take me through it, like what happened on your first day?
Okay, so first day, obviously, you get up to campus, you go try. I was like, okay, I have my program, so I'm gonna go find the building. But because CLA conference is part of this Congress, as you mentioned, I didn't realize that registration wasn't going to be right at the front desk there, or where they were having breakfast. So I get there and they tell me, "Oh, you have to go to this building on the other side of campus to register." And then I realized just how big of a deal Congress is because it's kind of it's like a multidisciplinary conference. So it's not like you've got just one field going on at once, but 10 of them, or I don't know, probably more to be honest.
Yeah, the Congress has anything that falls under the SSHRC umbrella, so the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, anything that would fall under that can fall under the umbrella of this huge Congress conference.
It was a definitely a very large conference, and I really did appreciate just how many different perspectives you could see there. Obviously, walking through the bookstore, you kind of got this vibe. It was like, oh, there's a theme. I didn't realize that conferences could necessarily be themed outside of this is your discipline and this is what we're talking about this year kind of thing. And it was kind of a lot of taking a lot of the experiences from Black Lives Matter movement and from the decolonization movements that are happening in Canada and trying to apply that to social sciences and humanities. So that was definitely very present, kind of woven throughout all of the advertising, through the book fair, through the later the fancy dinners that are associated, and even to some degree in the workshops specific that were specifically linguistics related. So yeah.
So you were there for the Canadian Linguistics Association conference. Did
Correct.
you gave a talk, didn't you? You presented?
I presented a poster, so I wasn't as fancy as
Oh, it's still
others.
fancy. I think posters are pretty fancy.
Yeah, no, I was there kind of presenting my thesis work. And honestly, I was just surprised at how many people were interested in it. It was definitely outside of most linguistics fields because I'm kind of more in psycholing, and there was a lot of more emphasis on things like semantics and syntax and morphology that were also present. That's not to say that there wasn't sociolinguistics and psycholinguistics present. There was a lot of that, and that's kind of the pool I ended up mostly floating in. But there it was the whole spectrum of how we study language and why we study languages, and specifically what we're doing kind of in Canada and abroad at this time as Canadian researchers. So it was an eye-opening experience, shall we
So it
say.
was pretty broad.
Oh, for sure, for sure. There were people talking about anything from Dene Suline, which is an indigenous language in Saskatchewan, to Mandarin, or Itzah, which is in Central America, or someone talking about their specific dialect in Italy
Oh,
and
wow.
its orthographic structure. And I was just like, okay, so there's so it's everything and everyone.
And so you gave your poster on the first day?
Yes, I was just happy to get it out of the way.
So you're kind of lucky you got to experience then the rest of the conference without constantly thinking about when you're going to have to talk.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I mean, I helped at conference and been at conferences before, but this one was the first one where it was like, oh, okay, I get to just kind of be an observer while also being involved. Because, if you just attend a conference because you get to go, you kind of have no skin in the game, so to say. But I did, which kind of helped me like push myself to learn more things or to kind of take a look and see what's everyone else talking about? How is this relevant? And like what interesting insights to the field of like language study can we get? So
So, as someone coming from, if you don't mind my saying, the
yes.
psycholinguistic perspective and the psychology, out of a psychology program, you were able to experience some more of a different side of linguistics, you would think, that you
Yes,
haven't seen before?
definitely. Definitely. Yeah, no, there's some things that I definitely still found hard to kind of grasp around. I know syntax is going to be the death of me till the like no matter how hard I push. But I realize how important it is to kind of like examine and understand those components because if you look at language just from one perspective, then you're missing out on the whole depth of it because language is complicated.
Language is complicated, which is fun. That's the exciting part of it.
It is fun. And overall, I think yeah, when you when you kind of start looking at the Canadian perspective around language is we've kind of had this and this was kind of very prevalent throughout the research is this kind of obsession with bilingualism, and that's fine. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But what was really interesting was on the last day we had this kind of workshop about how what kind of bilingualism was being like institutionally favored and how we like reconcile the fact that there are multiple types of bilingualism that are very present in Canada. First and foremost, beyond the English French dichotomy, is like the indigenous languages. It's like how to incorporate that into the structure of Canadian bilingualism and how to support and encourage and grow that rather than looking at it sideways when, and this kept coming up over and over again, Governor Mary Simon or Governor General Mary Simon gets like called as Governor General, and she's bilingual, but there's frustrations about what kind of bilingual she is, um, and that's an ongoing discussion. I don't want to get too spicy today.
Well, would you consider that event, was it more of a panel or was it like a working group?
It was more of a panel and a discussion, like which was really interesting to hear the perspectives because I hadn't thought, as someone who is pretty stereotypically Canadian in the sense that I learned English at home and French in school, but like in like French immersion programs. So like my French is, I'm not gonna say fluent, but I could get around Quebec City without much issue. Um, but I think that I hadn't thought of, oh yeah, but there's like 10,000 other types of bilingualism that
Right.
exist here, from English to Punjabi and French and Mandarin. Or like Ojibwe Cree and English, or Inuktitut and English and French all at once.
And was
It's
this one of several, say, panels that was available during the CLA?
yes, yes. There were quite a few. And I would say that there were a few other presentations rather than panels. That
Okay.
was the big panel. And I know, like I was saying earlier, that tied into a lot of the truth and reconciliation stuff that was kind of the theme of Congress. I think it's really important to have those conversations. They're not easy conversations to have, especially kind of where linguistics and language has a history of some not so savory things, shall we
Hmm.
say, in terms of particularly um, colonization and colonial languages and the global south, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's important that like if the field is willing to accommodate those spaces to say, well, let's look at the importance of all languages and not look at them just kind of like, here's this neat little thing I saw.
Right. No, it's a really good point. So this
So
was like, you think it really was representative of like coast to coast to coast?
I would say it definitely could have used a bit more maritime representation.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was a few, obviously, but I definitely know that the big names were a lot from like Quebec through Alberta for sure.
Right.
Um, I'm pretty. There were still definitely some from BC, and definitely still some from the Maritimes. But no, it was you saw people from all over Canada, and that's the thing is like sometimes when you like are able to see the whole country, you're able to get new perspectives. But I feel again, maybe it's just the talks that I was looking into. Um, no, now that I think about it, there was a talk about SHIAC. I just did not attend it. My apologies.
Well, I mean, the CLA, like many conferences, has parallel talks. I don't know if it was like
Oh,
two parallel at a time or three.
three.
It's
It
three.
was three parallel sessions, and all of them lined up exactly like, oh, if you wanted to see a talk in all three across a 1 hour and a half section, you could have first 30 minutes, second 30 minutes, third 30 minutes, and all in different rooms. But that also meant that you got to pick and choose what you wanted. And again, me knowing myself, favored socio and psycholinguistics. So,
So, but we can't blame you for not attending every talk. It'd be actually impossible.
oh, I mean, you could blame me,
Oh,
but
I'm
I
not
don't
going
think
to.
that's a I don't think that's a prudent action, but yes.
Yes, yes. Did you enjoy the talks that you went to? Did you find them worthwhile?
I did. I definitely did find those talks worthwhile, and I'm hoping we'll have some future collaborations. See more episodes coming, like and subscribe.
That's brilliant.
But yeah, no, the talks that I went to, I really did enjoy. They were really well presented, very well thought out. The posters that were there were also really excellent. And let me tell you, I have not been stretched professionally in French in a very long time, and I had to be like, time to dust off things that I haven't used regularly in my academic career since I graduated from my BA.
So, you found it a good test of your bilingual skills. Did you
Yes,
attend talks in French then, too?
I did. I did. Talks were easier. Trying to explain my poster in French to francophones was a completely different challenge.
No, you don't have to recapitulate your talk. Well, maybe a general idea.
General idea. Okay, so I was talking about kind of bilingualism and associates, specifically like how you organize those words in your brain. And sorry, in your mind, there is a distinction. Yeah. So those kinds of like, I had not engaged in those topics in French really ever before, and so there was a lot of hand gestures involved. But
But it was good.
yeah, I think it was good.
So, were you able to look at any of the other features of Congress? Like, did you go to any of their big thinking series? Did you check out their, uh, I guess I call it a book fair?
I did check out their book fair. They had all sorts of different things going on. Like there were some performances going on in between. Like they had hired actors and dancers and singers to kind of present things in between. They also had set up their own like food pavilion
Oh,
tent with
wow.
like different food. Like yeah, it was very top notch. I enjoyed the food. Can't complain. Um, they even had their own like themed donuts with like
Wow.
colorful sprinkles that were definitely not in colors that I was used to. And yeah, there was like a gala for like halfway through, and it was not bad. It was good food. Once again, bringing back the acknowledgments of like land acknowledgments, that being on the territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Mississauga peoples, and associating kind of the importance of like all of the lessons that they were trying to instill over the conference. So yeah, I did get to check out some of the different events as well. Overall, can't complain. 8 out of 10,
8 out of
solid,
10?
solid conference. I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 just because I know that not because it wasn't perfect, just I don't have enough experience with one of these to say, oh my goodness, it was the best thing ever,
Well,
or
I
oh my
imagine too,
goodness,
like Congress is huge. Like the whole thing is
it,
huge, which
it
means
is.
even if you're at your small subdisciplinary conference, you're surrounded by thousands of people, which I think can be much, in my experience, is much more difficult to get a feel of like your small event because there
Yep.
is so much activity. And like you turn around and suddenly you're in the historian conference.
Literally not gonna lie, they were smooshed right next to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would never know who you were talking to, and the only way you could occasionally was the name tags. I mean, when in doubt, check the name tag.
Check the name tag if people are wearing them by the third day.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. There are more episodes on the way, some with friends you already know, like Dr. Libin, and some with new upcoming professors and graduates. So keep an eye out for those.
Thanks so much, everyone, and thank you, Matthew, for sharing your experience at the CLA with us.
Thank you. Remember, everyone, like, comment, and subscribe.
Bye, guys.